Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this week's edition of Inside the Zone. As always, Justin Kenny joining us with a presence to talk high school football here on Inside the Zone. And, you know, the big game of last week was Snyder and Homestead down in Indianapolis on Saturday. Snyder's going to be playing Wayne in the Highlight Zone game of the week this Friday night. But when it comes to Snyder, what impressed you and how much have they separated themselves maybe from Homestead in terms of that 1 versus 2 in the SAC at this point?
Yeah, I don't know how many people realistically thought Homestead could beat Snyder, but we kind of wanted to see how big that gap was, and I still think it's pretty substantial with what Snyder was able to do against Homestead. Homestead was very competitive, particularly offensively. I don't think we're appreciating enough of what Homestead was able to do against that vaunted Snyder defense. And so we can look at it both ways, but in terms of Snyder, that offense was very, very effective, particularly early, and really set the tone. And Homestead really didn't have an answer throughout the entire game.
We said one thing last week Homestead had to do was stop the running game and make Snyder pass against you. Now, Snyder, 3 for 9 passing for 86 yards, and 78 of those came on the big one to Lido at the end. So the passing game, not as effective as I'm sure Kurt Tittman would like. So that's a good check mark in the Homestead category.
Yeah.
But man, Christian Covington had himself a game. Michael Hoppert had himself a game running the football. Maybe they don't need to pass, to win a football game against a good competition level team. Although I think that will change against some of the Indianapolis teams.
Absolutely. I think, in the SAC, the Snyder is definitely going to be able to get by being one-dimensional. I'm not saying Michael Hoppert can't do it, but he's going to have to do it at some point. It was very similar to Isaac Stiebling in the year they won state championship. Stiebling really didn't have to pass a lot during the season, but there were a couple games where he won with his arm, and that's going to come down to you're eventually going to have to play Carmel, you're eventually going to have to play Ben Davis or Center Grove or Lawrence Central or keep going on down the line. You're going to have to face those teams, and I think that's maybe a little bit of a concern for Snyder, because we got a nitpick here with Snyder is giving up that many points to Homestead. And Jaya Wright proved that he's legit. He was absolutely phenomenal on Saturday, just didn't have enough help around him, especially in the defensive side. But you're looking at a Homestead team, you're saying, okay, if Homestead could drop 30-plus on Snyder, what are these big teams going to do? And that's going to be the question going forward for Snyder, because I think we can all agree they should not be challenged the rest of the regular season.
Wayne comes up this Friday for them at Spooler Stadium, and the Generals are on a 3-game winning streak. We talked at the beginning of the year, Craig Young is one of, if not the best overall athlete in the SAC. He poses some problems if Wayne can use him effectively, and Wayne's improved. We've always talked about the potential with Wayne. It has yet to be realized to, an SAC championship type level, but maybe they, climb to that level of competition this week. What are your thoughts on Wayne? Because they've certainly gotten better from week 1.
Yeah, this is the next big test after that week 1 test for Wayne, is where they're at and where that barometer stands for the Generals. They've improved, obviously, 3 straight victories. Coming into Snyder, a good barometer game for anybody, particularly Wayne. So big challenge. It's going to be tough to beat Snyder. Just how competitive can Wayne be? It was very similar to what we wanted to see out of Homestead. The luck for Wayne is they don't have to face Snyder in the postseason. They're in a different class. If
you're Wayne coach Derek Moore, what are you saying this week? What are some of the keys that you're really stressing leading up to Friday's ball game?
They just need to continue the momentum. I think, throughout this past month, from that first week of the season where had 17 penalties, numerous unforced errors and turnovers, they steadily have gotten better and better in terms of not beating themselves. Definitely going to need more of that on Friday to stay competitive, but you don't want to see a regression here as we go into the second half of the season, and that's exactly what Derek Moore is going to tell his team. We need to continue the positive momentum, win or lose. We need to play good football, and I think they'll have a great test on Friday.
On the flip side of that, if you're Kurt Tittman, a lot went into that Homestead game, playing on a Saturday, playing at Lucas Oil Stadium, knowing, from about week 2 or 3 that Homestead was probably going to be the biggest challenger in the SAC. So now that you've got that circled game, if you will, off the calendar, how do you make sure you don't overlook somebody like Wayne or overlook really anybody that they're going to face throughout the rest of the season?
That's a challenge, obviously, for Coach Kurt Tittman and his staff, but I think there was enough that they saw Saturday night, particularly defensively, that they need to clean up if they're going to make a deep run in 6A. I think that was a good, I don't want to say they were exposed per se, but they were able to see deficiencies in their defense that they weren't able to see against lesser competition through the first month of the season. So plenty to see, especially defensively, for Snyder and where they need to improve if they're going to beat the big guns of 6A come playoff time.
All right, other SAC games: Carroll at Southside, Dwenger at Concordia, Northrop at Luers, Homestead at Northside. We've had some really lopsided weeks, but I really like this week's SAC schedule because Dwenger against Concordia, that's going to be a good football game.
Yeah, I saw Concordia last Friday. They were just able to absolutely demolish Northrop through the first quarter. It was pretty even through the remaining 3 quarters. But Concordia, we saw them a barometer game against Bishop Luers. They get Dwenger this week, a team that they beat last year before winning a state championship. So we're seeing more and more of Concordia and thinking, man, could they make another deep run in 3A? And that offense is coming along. Jake Bird has really settled in nicely. He made some Peter Morrison-esque throws last Friday night that were very impressive. And it was a kid that, he missed the season last year, was a late move-in from California, and he's still learning the offense. First play last Friday, he takes a delay of game penalty, and Coach Manigault said that's just him still getting used to what we do. So he's still learning each and every week. But this is a Concordia team that you're going, man, I mean, we thought we counted them out this year, thought they graduated too much to really make a push in 3A again, but 3-2 and have looked pretty good. They were very challenging against Snyder, that 24-7 loss. So a lot to like about Concordia right now.
Northrop at Luers is intriguing because Luers is starting to get healthy. Ty Hambright got healthy, and we saw him last week make a couple of big runs after the catch for touchdowns against Northside. With Jordan Presley now, this is the offense we were wanting to see at the beginning of the season. So many weapons. And Northrop really is a team that can put up a lot of points. I mean, still having trouble stopping people, but they can score.
Yeah, and Northrop just needs to come out ready to play from the opening kick. I mean, they didn't do that against Concordia. Once they started being competitive in the second quarter, it was a pretty even game, but they just weren't ready to play on Friday. So the thing is with Bishop Luers is they are a very solid team when their lines block. And when they don't block, they're not a good team. And it just comes down to that. When that offense has the offensive line that can block and open holes, they got the athletes to make people pay. But we've seen it in games this season where their just offensive line doesn't seem to show up at all. And I think that's the question on which Luers team we're going to get each and every week.